Hello, I call the Charlottesville October 20th, 2025 City Council meeting to order. Ms. Thomas, will you please call the roll?
Councilor Oshrin.
Here.
Councilor Payne has requested to participate virtually. Vice Mayor Pinkston.
Here.
Councilor Snook.
Here.
Mayor Wade.
Here. Let's see. So, Councilor Payne, can you hear us?
I can, yes.
Okay. Okay. Is there any objection to, can you specify your specific location, sir?
Yes, I'm in Charlottesville, Virginia, and reason for participating virtually is foot injury that leaves me unable to walk very effectively.
Okay. Is there any objection to Councilor Payne participating electronically?
I think technically we have to have a motion. I would move
Okay.
approval.
Second.
Second, okay. So you want us to voice vote?
Voice is fine.
All in favor, please say yes.
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 All opposed, please say no. Great. Thank you. Let's see. Is there a motion to approve or amend the agenda?
I move for approval.
Second.
Okay. Michael, all in favor,
Yes.
please,
Vote?
please say yes.
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 All opposed, please say no. Okay, the motion passes 5-0. The meeting will be divided into three sections. The first one will be a work session where we will discuss and hear presentation and where council will not take a vote, and then followed by a closed session. Do we have a closed session today, Sam?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
We do, yes.
Yeah.
And then we'll come back at 6:30 for a regular business meeting. And we have three reports today. The first one will be the Public Defender's Office.
Hi,
Hello?
my name's Nick Rapucci. I'm the public defender for Charlottesville, Albemarle. Thank you for having me. I have to say this is the first time I've done something like this. I'm relatively new to the job, and not exactly sure what sort of presentation you guys wanted to hear, but I have some things I'd like to say. And
Great.
I'm more than happy to answer questions. This is kind of how I expect this to go, as a give and take. And from my perspective, what I most want to convey is the public defender's gratitude for the supplements that my staff and myself and all the attorneys in the office receive. City Council for the past probably 10 or so years has provided a relatively significant and yet modest supplement that has, thank you. I'm not used to using a mic in court. I have a loud voice. Maybe it's, thanks again. So the Public Defender's Office has 16 employees, 9 of which are attorneys, 3 of which are staff. We have 2 investigators, a mitigation specialist, and a paralegal. And I think it's safe to say that our office serves the most vulnerable, the poorest people in our community in their time of ultimate need. We provide excellent criminal defense via negotiation and litigation. More importantly, we treat all our clients with dignity, respect, compassion, and concern for them as individuals and for their families in this time of challenge. We pride ourselves on being client-centered. And what that means to me and to my office is that we will advise, we will work hard to help our clients who are charged with criminal offenses, but at all times we'll respect their wishes on how to proceed, whether or not we agree with them. We are their tool, we are their voice, but they are in charge. Nobody meets a public defender or receives a public defender because they want to. They get a public defender because they've been accused of a crime. Doesn't mean they've committed a crime, but they've been accused of a crime and they are legally found to be indigent, meaning that they don't have the money to pay for an attorney of their choice. That said, No disrespect, Lloyd, I think the best attorneys in Central Virginia work for me. Certainly the best criminal defense attorneys, and we're free.
Best bang for the buck, sir.
Absolutely, without question. But it does mean that when we first meet somebody, they don't want to meet us, right? They're meeting us because they're in trouble. And it's sort of office policy and office culture that we will treat them with respect, with dignity, with empathy, and work to solve whatever specific legal challenge and perhaps sanction that they're going to receive in a way that ensures that their rights are protected and that the police and the government do not cross any lines that should not be crossed. And again, I'm here to thank you for the supplement that we received, because I do think it's important to point out just how stressful and emotionally draining the job is for the people that work for me and for myself. We represent thousands of people every year in this community, and we do it despite the supplement for not a terrifically high salary. It is a job that causes people to work late hours, to be away from their families at times. But everybody in the office has chosen this line of work for the right reasons, and that is kindness, the belief in service, the belief in helping others, and most importantly, empathy with your fellow human being. We are at the front line of defending the Constitution and the rule of law, and at this time in our country, and even in our local community, that obligation, that duty to our country, our community, has never been greater. I think that often people think criminal defense attorneys, and specifically public defenders, because of the marginalized community that we serve, are there to help people get away with misbehavior or illegal behavior. But I think a lot of what we do aligns with very important missions that City Council has been on record as saying are important to City Council. Specifically, we regularly interface, and that's a sort of undiplomatic word, we regularly serve people with mental health problems, mental health crises, the unhoused, people with significant substance abuse and alcohol abuse problems. And in our role of defending their legal interests in court, inevitably, we are tasked with helping find solutions to the underlying problems that are getting them entrenched in the criminal justice or injustice system. We regularly work to find rehabilitation programs for people all across the state. We regularly work to help people interface with Region 10, which is an organization that is in my opinion, underfunded, understaffed, and overworked. We help them. We help people interface with the therapeutic docket, which is a relatively new program in our community that helps people in criminal trouble resolve their cases in a favorable way by participating in mental health therapy, and it's proven quite effective, and we're finding people that succeed in that program are significantly less likely to come back to court. Inevitably, some of the people that we are representing are unhoused, which is obviously a significant problem in this community. In every way, we try to work with organizations and families and the community to help people solve this problem, which inevitably leads to some interaction, not for all people, but some people with the criminal justice system. We help people access the recovery court, which helps individuals overcome substance abuse problems that are leading to criminal activity. I think all of that makes Charlottesville a better place to live for the larger community, but the underserved and the marginalized. We actively combat racism. We guard against police overreach and aggression, not accusing the police of any specific wrongdoing, but we are there to ensure that they follow the law as well, and that our clients and the citizens of this community's rights are respected and guaranteed in a court of law. Additionally, at this time, there's a lot of pressure on us and on the community with regard to ICE enforcement. We have limited ability to combat federal policy as we're a state organization and work in the state courts. But I do think it's important, and maybe council remembers in April, there was a raid at the Albemarle County General District Court in which a public defender client was taken into custody by proclaimed ICE agents that were wearing masks, not showing arrest warrants or badges of authority. The public defender's office filmed this activity. We released it to the media, and it became a national and international story. And this community was on the front lines of the pushback to ICE's, in my opinion, outrageous behavior of hiding their identities and not showing badges of authority and masking their faces. We were interviewed by the New York Times, the Washington Post, newspapers in Europe, all of which I think glacially contributing to society's realization that some of what is taking place is, from my perspective, immoral and is leading to sort of a degradation of the rule of law in our country. And we work hard to ensure that people's rights are protected. And again, we work for the state, but the city of Charlottesville graciously does provide us a supplement that has helped me maintain a stable staff, has helped everybody that works for me get something for their kids or pay their mortgage or help with a car, and we are so grateful for that. And I think it's a testament to City Council's help to the Public Defender Office that I think it's fair to say, and I think across the state, the Public Defender's offices would acknowledge that we are probably the most stable and the most experienced office in the state with very little turnover in a job that is famous for turnover, that being a public defender, because it is so stressful and hard. And for attorneys, the pay is slightly below market, if you will. So with that sort of long-winded praising of myself and my office, I would love to answer any questions you guys may have.
Lloyd, I'll start with you.
I don't really have any questions. I will just say that over the 40-plus years that I've been practicing criminal law in Charlottesville, for the first 20-ish, I would frequently get calls from people complaining about their court-appointed attorneys. And when the Public Defender's Office was created eventually after 4 vetoes from George Allen, it was created, and the number of calls that I would get complaining about the public defender went down almost to zero. And that, and in many cases they would call and they would explain to me what the issue was, and I said, well, you got to realize that these folks have about 3 times as many clients as private lawyers do, and there's a limit, maybe more, and there are still only 26 hours in a day for criminal defense lawyers, and you got to work with that. And I'll just say that overall, I've been very impressed with the quality of the representation. Of course, you have at least one person who is a veteran of our office, having started with us a few years ago.
She's a terrific lawyer.
Yeah, she is. Had good training from the start.
Yes, she did.
But when people call me and they say to me, they think they want to hire us for some reason, and I say, well, you've got one of the best law firms, criminal defense law firms in the state, essentially for free. And I'm not trying to talk you out of spending your money with me, but why are you so anxious to make the change? It's just been a really great a great change for a whole lot of reasons, for individual clients, but also for the way in which justice gets administered in Charlottesville. You all become the institutional voice of the defense bar and the defense forces more generally. And I know you all serve in a lot of different ways other than simply in the courtroom, and I appreciate that. I'm glad that we can do at least a little something to help your staff get along a little better financially.
Thank you. It really does help.
Brian?
I don't really have any questions per se. Just want to thank you for the work that you do, and thanks for coming to talk to us today. I appreciate the passion that's obvious and evident in your comments. You know, I don't know if there's just anything off the top of your head that you could say that's keeping you up at night, or any changes or things sort of coming down the pike that give you pause. I know the situation with the federal government is one piece.
Right.
Are there other things that maybe we could be supportive?
Well, I think you guys are doing a terrific job of supporting us. One thing I would say, sort of following up on what Lloyd said, is when I grew up in Charlottesville, Charlottesville native. I went to Woodbrook Elementary, Burley Middle School, and Albemarle High School, and I've lived in the same house in Charlottesville City for 26 years. But when I graduated from UVA Law School, there was no public defender's office in Charlottesville, and I, for my own reasons, wanted to serve in this way, and had to move all the way to Denver to do this work. And then the office started, and I convinced Jim Hingley all those years ago to hire me, and I've worked continuously for the last 27 and a half years locally here to better our community. So I appreciate the support, and I think our office knows, and I think that some offices don't have this benefit, that the community values our work. And obviously the financial aid is appreciated, but also the fact that we're recognized as, I mean, you could quibble if we're doing the right thing, but we feel that just we're supported by the community that values the work that we do, even though at times we're helping people that have made choices that the community fundamentally rejects. In terms of your specific comments, I think that, you know, less as the public defender, but as a citizen and a voter of Charlottesville, I pay attention to the efforts that City Council makes to address the inequities in our society, and specifically, obviously it's impossible or very difficult to right all economic challenges and wrongs, but I appreciate, and our office appreciates, the general direction and efforts of City Council to make life fairer for the most marginalized in our community, and it's appreciated. That's more as a citizen and as a voter. And right now, the challenges with the federal government, there's so little that at least we can do through litigation or negotiation, because we only work in the state courts. I referenced the example of the person that was just grabbed from court after the public defender successfully got his charges dismissed. You know, we had no legal basis to communicate with that person anymore. We were not his attorney. It's a federal charge. None of us have a license to work in federal court. So that's a can of worms I don't know how to solve, other than, I think as a matter of public policy, our office speaking out against that, and local government such as yourselves saying that you disagree. And we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Michael, do you have anything, sir?
Just, you know, as you touched on, obviously the work of everyone in your office is extremely difficult, and as you said, is necessary for upholding the rule of law and the Constitution and so many goals of council and the community. You know, you touched on new challenges you're facing in terms of the federal government, and, you know, the limited ability of your office directly to do things. You know, obviously, local government itself has its own limits, although I think, as you said, there's certainly a role for us to state our principles and beliefs and try to figure out as best as we can, what can we do to help address, these challenges to basic rule of law at the federal level. In addition to all that, are you seeing any threats or changes to the funding environment of your office? Obviously, we provide a supplement of around $100,000 in the last budget, but I know you have a lot of other funding coming from other places. Is any of that under threat, or is that at the funding level, are things kind of stable in terms of what you're foreseeing over the next year?
Well, I would say I'm hopeful that you guys, I'm working on requesting the supplement for next year, and to be honest, I'm aware, or I suspect there's limitations just from federal funding to the state and to local communities, and so all I'm going to be asking for is if the city employees receive a cost of living raise, that we receive the same cost of living raise, but nothing additional at this point. It is my expectation, in speaking to my supervisor in Richmond, that it's unlikely that state employees are likely to get a cost of living raise, for the next year or two, just given the federal government's sort of destruction of Virginia's tax base, which is the federal employees that live in Northern Virginia. I expect that all local and state government to be a little less, have a little less money, and we're cognizant of that, and we understand that. In terms of overall, though, I think our economic needs are met in terms of me being able to keep my staff happy with the wages that they make from the state, but the supplements really make us competitive. And in the last year, I'll be perfectly frank, both I don't want to misspeak, but two different local governments in Northern Virginia have reached out and spoken to me asking about how this works, because other public defender offices are trying to implement similar policies that will keep their turnover less and their attorney level of experience higher, because when I speak to my peers at state conferences and just explain how very little turnover we have here, and it's in large part to the fact that our attorneys are making more than other public defenders across the state because of what you guys have done for us. So I can't overstate how much that has helped me cultivate an experienced staff, which helps the community. And again, obviously our main role is to an individual case, but collectively, I do think we make Charlottesville a better place to live because we help people above and beyond just in the courtroom. And then those people help their extended family, et cetera, and it grows from there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't have much to add other than thank you for the work. I'm glad that we're able to support you in that, and that your team is so stable. That's going to have clear benefits to the people who need to use your office. You mentioned that you've got 16 employees, including 9 attorneys and a paralegal, and that you see a lot of people every year. You mentioned thousands. How many cases or people do you work with each year, approximately?
Approximately, I would say, on average, at any given time, the attorneys in our office have between 100 and 125 open cases. Now, cases are closing out throughout the year. And there's 9 attorneys, 1 paralegal, 2 investigators, and a mitigation specialist that are doing most of the face time with the clients. I apologize for not sort of pinning that down. Our computers are the system that tracks cases is provided by the state, and actually I've been reaching out to my supervisor, and there's movement on improving the sort of ability for me to track that. All I can see at any given time is how many open cases I have in the office. It doesn't track. I'd have to go through individual cases and count them up. But I would guess at least 2,000 cases from January 1st to December 31st, if not more.
So a lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
We're busy.
Yeah, all right. Well, that's just good context to have. Thank you again.
Thank you as well.
Yeah, I concur with my colleagues. I just appreciate the work, and I thank you for letting us know, expressing to us the difference that our support makes to the stability of us, of your office, and the effectiveness of
It really
how
makes
you
a big
represent the
difference.
client. So thank you. You did great. This is exactly what were
I didn't know what to
anticipating.
expect, so I enjoyed it.
So
Thank
you hit it, you know, it wasn't a trial or anything. You did great.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service. Thank you
Yes.
very much, sir. The next presentation will be the offender aids and restoration.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I think I made a mistake. I should be kicking myself for not asking to go first in front of Nick because it's going to be hard to match that.
Yeah.
So my name's Ross Carew. I'm the executive director of OAR. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. Is there a clicker?
Oh, yeah.
On the other side.
Either side.
So I wanted to highlight, that's our new building. We moved in there approximately 2 years ago. It's off Harris Street. So wanted to talk a little bit about how OAR aligns with the city. And so the primary impact is around public safety. And then there's a new designation, this foundational designation, and it talks about being safe, evidence-based, and cost-effective alternatives to incarceration. So OAR has been providing service to the city of Charlottesville for over 50 years. We provide probation service, pretrial service, reentry service, peer support, recovery courts, therapeutic docket, criminal justice planning for Charlottesville and the 8 surrounding counties. We serve approximately, I said 4,000, but I just finished the data, it's 4,400 people annually. Our population, the total population is over 300,000 and a little over 3,000 square miles. It's bigger than the state of Delaware and bigger than the state of Rhode Island. There's the footprint. We have an office here in Charlottesville. We also have an office in Orange. And so the question becomes, why OAR? And I've highlighted a bunch of facts, but I wanted to sort of narrow down on a couple of them that address being safe, being cost-effective, and being evidence-based. So alternative responses to incarceration and the adversarial court process yield better results. Also, cost-effective, the cost or the use of public money, the cost per day at the Albemarle Charlottesville Regional Jail is about $150 a day. The average length of stay is 33 days. I just did some calculations in making my request for Louisa, just like I do for you all. It comes out to about 50 cents a day for our probation department. So when you compare and contrast what we're doing compared to, say, incarceration, there is a significant cost benefit. I would argue that OAR is an integral part of a larger system that has produced lower crime rates, reductions in the jail population, and a rebooking rate less than the national average over the last 10 years. I've been with OAR for 30 years. I remember when the jail was at 650 per person. 650 people per day. So I broke down in the PowerPoint each one of the different programs that we have that we ask for services. I gave in the blue oval, or the blue circle, talks about sort of the bifurcation of how we get our money, how much, how many clients served. Also wanted to highlight in each one of the yellow boxes down at the bottom, that's actual client feedback from our client survey, and you'll see that as we go through pages. I put quotes there. But our pretrial services program provides pretrial investigation and supervision for defendants prior to trial. So everything that Nick was talking about with the public defender, we're right there with them the entire process. Our goal of our pretrial services program is to maximize release, maximize public safety, and to maximize court appearance. We want release and supervision based on risk, not based on charges, not based on finances. We want it based on validated risk assessment. Our probation department is predominantly a misdemeanor probation, utilizes evidence-based supervision strategies that are geared towards reducing the likelihood of reoffending. Supervision for medium and high-risk people is individualized versus one-size-fits-all, which we know does not work. Our adult recovery court is an alternative court response for individuals with substance use disorder, with felony offenses in Charlottesville and Albemarle. It's a collaborative team. There's a phased approach in which supervision and treatment intensity lessens as milestones are reached. Graduation occurs after a minimum of 1 year. Employment, 4 months of continuous sobriety. We do a lot of drug testing at our office. Therapeutic docket, similar model, although it's geared for high-risk individuals suffering from serious mental illness. These are folks that have SMI. They're not, or suffering from SMI. They're not someone who just might be mildly depressed, or these are folks that need some significant help.
SMI.
Serious mental illness, sorry. It's a phased approach in which intensity is lessened as goals are met. Graduation occurs after 9 months. This is housed in the Albemarle General District Court, but it's a collaborative program between Charlottesville and Albemarle. Reentry services. Our reentry staff go into the jail and they provide transition planning and they teach classes. They help address emergency needs immediately upon release, and then hopefully develop a long-term case management relationship to hopefully reduce reoffending and improve self-sufficiency. The thing that's distinct about our reentry services is the only program that we have that's voluntary. All the other have a do this or else component. It also helps facilitate multiple different reentry councils and the EBDM efforts. Peer support. This is a new program for us. It's staffed by individuals with lived experience. It's designed to enhance the recovery courts and the therapeutic docket. It's a partnership between the city, Albemarle, Fluvanna, Nelson, and then Orange and Madison as part of the Regional Opiate Abatement Award. Criminal Justice Planning. This is a staff position to the Thomas Jefferson Area Community Criminal Justice Board and to the Charlottesville Albemarle Evidence-Based Decision-Making Team. This person facilitates all of the activity around those groups, conducts research, provides analysis. You probably have seen reports from him, PowerPoints and graphs and jail analysis and crime analysis. And I wanted to highlight the two different groups, the EBDM group, Evidence-Based Decision-Making Group. We have 5 work groups: law enforcement diversion, disproportionality, reentry, high utilizers, and we just added a new one, responses to intimate partner violence. And then the CCJB, or the Community Criminal Justice Board, we're looking at jurisdictional metrics and a scorecard. And then another group is working on a gap analysis. And that is the CCJB works for the entire 9 jurisdictions. Wanted to highlight these other programs that we have. We have 3 other drug recovery courts. We also have a rural reentry services program. Wanted to highlight this picture. There's 5 judges in that. There's treatment folks, there's peers, there's OAR staff, there's defense counsel, there's board members, and there's Commonwealth attorneys in that picture. Challenges, like Nick talked a little bit about, wage competition and job retention is a challenge. We're consistently about 10% lower in And we lose staff to the jail, we lose staff to juvenile and state probation, Region 10. Uncertainty in federal funding and grant opportunities. I think that was sort of the impetus for asking us to talk about the federal funding impact. Typically, how things have started for programming with OAR is there's a community issue. We develop stakeholder buy-in, we seek the data, then we reach out to the federal government for any kind of implementation money. And then we start those grants, we have success, then we look to the state and locality as sort of after proof of concept. And that's kind of how therapeutic docket's gotten started. That's how the drug courts or the recovery courts have gotten started. And I think looking in the future, there's a lot of uncertainty about whether or not those opportunities are going to be available. We also had federal funding. We received notice on April 22nd, 5:30, saying your services are no longer needed. As a result, for our rural reentry grant, luckily for us, we were on the very back end of a 4-year cycle, and we've been able to secure additional funding for another 3 years through the Central Virginia Regional Jail. But those are the kind of uncertainties that we have with federal funding. Any kind of legislative changes might be a challenge. For example, changes in the marijuana law, while we all agree with, it did impact who we serve. We have a state and local funding imbalance. We ask for funding from all the localities for probation and pretrial. Across the state, that average is about 40%. For us, it's about 14%. We also, as an administrator, it's a challenge sometimes because all of our funding is reimbursement funding. So if Albemarle County is late in one of their payments, then we're a little bit out over our skis a bit, and that gets us a little bit nervous. Sort of jumping on the back of what Nick said, meeting community needs with less, it's harder to be an agency of yes. We pride ourselves on addressing community needs. Agency successes. I talked about the successful relocation within the city. When we were looking to move, being in the city of Charlottesville was a priority. Being close to the bus line, being close to the courts, having relative parking were priorities of ours, and I think we were successful in that. We received funding from all of the jurisdictions that we serve. We're especially proud of the growth of the agency, especially in the outlying counties. There was a time in which the services that you got in the outlying counties, meaning like the more rural community, was not the same kind of service that you got in Charlottesville. Wanted to highlight our talented staff. This is a list of just the ones that I could think of off the top of my head when preparing this PowerPoint, of all the various different specialists, training, certifications that our staff have. And then wanted to highlight what our clients say about us. And so every year we do client surveys. It's formatted this way because this is the dual role inventory, which is a validated tool measuring care, trust, and support. So these are the markers we ask our clients anonymously to respond, strongly disagree, agree, and strongly agree on these markers. They also have the ability to give comments. And this is what we've done over the last 2 years, or this is how they've responded over the last 2 years. Importantly, while we're here, client success. So our pretrial public safety and appearance rates are above 90%. Clients that complete supervision with our misdemeanor probation department are 2.5 times less likely to reoffend. We're creeping up on over 500 recovery court graduates, We've had over 100 therapeutic docket graduates. We've had over 250 MRT graduates, and MRT is a cognitive-based therapy. It's designed to address antisocial attitudes, dysfunctional family, negative peer associations. And research has determined that despite our reentry population being higher risk than the general jail population, our reentry clients succeed. And then we are CCJB in partnership with UVA in their Capstone Systems Engineering Department and Data Science program wins awards every year. And I wanted to conclude with thank you for the long-standing partnership that Charlottesville has had with OAR. We wouldn't be around for over 50 years without y'all's support. Questions?
Thank you, Ross. Hope it was very, very informative. I'm retired now, but I worked with you all for years and years, and can attest to how you all reach out into the community to work with partners. So, thank you for your ongoing. I didn't realize it's been 50 years though. But I'll start with Michael. Michael, you have any questions, sir?
Yeah, I mean, similar to others, I mean, you touched on challenges you're facing, uncertainty with the funding environment. What is kind of we provide about $450,000 a year to you all. What is kind of the scale of money that's potentially under risk for you all?
Well, our money is at risk every year, so we have to request, receive, be awarded funding around $4.5 million every year. Approximately, I think 12% of that's federal dollars. The city gives, like you said, around 450, which is about 10%. We make requests from all of the localities for local funding for the programs that we serve. They're proportional requests based on either population or clients served. So we're writing grants and requesting funding every year on a cycle. So in theory, all of our money's at risk every year.
Mm-hmm. And did I mishear? So the federal funding, like 12%, about like $550,000. That's secure for the next 3 years, or was that a different pool of money?
No, that's a collection of money, and it's mostly for our rural drug recovery courts. They're on a cycle. Each one's a different cycle. And we could get a letter at any day, just like we did in April, saying it's no longer a priority.
Thank you.
Natalie?
No, I really appreciate the thoroughness of the presentation. You mentioned that the funding from other localities is proportional based on either population or number of people that you're serving from that locality. What makes that determination?
Well, we use population for the criminal justice planner, right? We use proportion of caseload size based on if one county is using a higher proportion, we ask for more money than that. And for the therapeutic docket and drug court, which is a shared program with Albemarle and Charlottesville, we ask for the exact same amount from each balanced amount from each one.
Okay, great. Are there ever challenges getting that funding from the localities?
There's a challenge every year depending on
There's some
the
pushback.
makeup of the various different board of supervisors and their priorities.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. And then I don't really have any additional questions. Thank you for the presentation and for the work. It seems to be a successful program, and I hope the federal funding stays at or above the levels that you need.
Thank you. Brian?
No questions. Just thank you for the presentation and thank you for the work you guys do. I know it's really important. I'm sure it's very hard. Hopefully, trying to be an optimist about things, hopefully the federal funding situation will become more reliable in the outgoing years, but realizing right now that it's a very fluid situation. But yeah, thank you again.
Lloyd?
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to say, sort of similar to what I said to Mr. Rapucci, is, my clients rely on you all. You make a big difference for them, their ability to stay out, the ability of judges, the confidence that the judges have in knowing that somebody who's being supervised by OAR is not going to get lost, is going to get services, is going to have problems hopefully addressed, is very important. And the ability to also coordinate things like community service hours after a sanction has been imposed is a really important part. I reflected, because I practice a lot in outlying counties as well, and in the last few years, places like Fluvanna and Nelson have been getting, the more and more often you're going to get a referral to OAR. You didn't, 20 years ago, that wasn't going to happen. 10 years ago, that wasn't going to happen. You all are obviously working the periphery of the area as well. And for 20 years ago, people would say, gee, I wish we could do in this county what Charlottesville is able to do. And now to an increasing degree, they are able to do what Charlottesville can do, largely because of y'all's efforts. So no questions, just lots of praise.
I appreciate the kind words. I would argue that it's not all about OAR. It's about our entire community and our community of stakeholders who work really hard together. I can speak about my colleagues across the state that they do not have the same kind of relationships that we do with our stakeholders and the trust and support. And so it's truly a collective effort. It's a system. It's not just about OAR. We think we're an integral part of that system. But we're truly blessed here in Charlottesville, and especially in Charlottesville and Albemarle, and even in the outlying counties, that we have a lot of, as Mr. Snook said, we have momentum going our way.
I have no additional questions or comments. We appreciate you and glad that you're a part of our community and working here. Thank you very much, and keep up the great work, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for the
Thank you.
opportunity to speak. And again, if anybody has questions or needs further information, please reach out.
Great, thank you. Our next presentation will be leaf collection and snow operations.
Now for something completely different.
Yeah.
This is Sam's favorite topic.
I've heard that. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jonathan Dean. I'm the Public Service Manager with the Public Works Department. I'm happy to be here today to kind of discuss some of our seasonal offerings, as it were, the ones that are pretty visible to our community, and we're happy to provide them. So to start off, we'll start with our leaf collection program, which is actually just around the corner. So just a brief outline of the agenda I wanted to cover with this topic tonight. So just to reiterate the start date, kind of the schedule, what our community can expect. Sorry, jumped ahead. What the community can expect, some recommendations and best practices that we always like to stress and communicate to make sure collection goes off without a hitch, and we're able to do a good job for that. And then communication efforts that we have online. So to start, leaf collection starts October 27th, so just around the corner, next week actually. We have all our information available on the website. We have a brief flyer there so you can find out more at charlottesville.gov/leaves. We'll have a detailed weekly schedule, so we do a rotational pickup around the city, different neighborhoods. You'll get up to 3 collections per week on that. So it is a curbside collection program. We collect loose leaves via vacuum that we actually tow around and collect loose. We also offer a drop-off location that community members can utilize. It's located at our Avon Yard facility, so they can actually bring bagged leaves there as an option if they choose to elect a different type option. All the leaves that we do collect, we like to stress that we're environmentally conscious with them. We actually partner with a local farm, and they're used for compost that's then made available to the area community members and local businesses.
If somebody wants to bag their leaves, do you have bags available? How do they,
So they would have to supply their own bags.
okay.
So the current program
Have to be
is-
compostable, I assume.
Yes, yep. And we actually offer kind of debagging opportunities at that drop-off location. So if someone comes with an inappropriate bag, we can assist them with that. So here's a quick slide on kind of best practices. We always like to stress this, not only for our benefit, but for the benefit of the community, because a lot of this can actually impede travel or the functioning of our stormwater system. So don't block your storm drains or fire hydrants. Please don't mix any other yard debris in this. We want to make sure that we keep it clean for the leaves. That's actually the partnership we have with our local farm, and to keep that compost as high quality as it can be. Definitely don't block any travelways, curb ramps, or crosswalks. And please consider alternatives that you can do at your property, such as starting an at-home compost pile or mulching your own leaves. Depending on the volume that you have, you may not be able to do your whole seasonal volume that way, but every little bit helps in that regard to do an alternative collection option. And as far as communication awareness that we try to promote, so we actually have a text alert service that community members can actually text their address to, and it'll actually give them reminders of when their assigned collection date is. So not only will they get the first schedule, but they can actually get a reminder text, because we all tend to forget things from time to time, especially with how busy lives can be. And again, all this information is available on our website at charlottesville.gov/leaves, and you'll have schedule maps, information, and information on that text alert service that we offer. And that's all I had on the leaf collection, so I'm happy to take questions on that before transitioning to Sam's favorite topic.
Yeah, let's do questions on this. Lloyd, do you have any questions?
The only question I have is, do you have sort of built into the schedule some slippage time, recognizing that weather often doesn't cooperate?
Yep.
If you start to get behind, you catch up a week because you've not programmed that particular week?
We do, and we actually have two accommodations for that. So we do build in some flex weeks, we call them. So it's 2 weeks out of the collection season. They tend to align around the holiday period as an opportunity for us to catch up. And we know a lot of people are traveling in and out of towns, and that might not be the best time to do a primary collection for an area. So we do offer that as kind of a catch-up for our staff, depending on how the season's gone up to that point. And then we also have enhanced collection routes along some of our primary pedestrian corridors that have a lot of foot traffic, just to kind of keep that clean and tidy. And we do that as kind of volume and capacity allows us to do. So we kind of contribute on a couple of different fronts there to address that.
Okay.
Brian? Michael?
I don't have any questions.
Natalie, you have any questions?
Yeah, just to clarify, the map that is on the website that's color-coded with the 3 different dates for each one means that there's 3 different curbside collection of loose leaf
Correct, yep. So
opportunities.
each area will receive, so we conduct collection during that time frame for that area. So they will receive 3 distinct collection.
Okay,
Yep.
great. Thanks.
No questions for me.
Can I just mention
Yeah.
one other thing that sort of dovetails with one of your last points? We got an email from the people pushing bees and butterflies saying, if you all don't want to rake your leaves, please put, if you don't want to rake them to the curb, rake them into a mulch pile or to some area in your own yard, because bees and butterflies, many of them overwinter in leaf piles. And if you have gone ahead and you've run your lawnmower over all of them and chewed them all up into teeny little fragments, you've probably killed the bees and the butterflies too, suggesting that if you're not really into raking leaves out to the street, make your own pile, as you suggested, your own mulch pile. It actually does have a benefit for the bees and the butterflies.
Yes.
No, it certainly does. And you potentially have your own compost available following
Right.
as well.
Okay.
All right.
Next.
If nothing else, we can transition right over into our snow and ice management program. So agenda for this topic. So start off with just giving kind of a brief context of Charlottesville's weather. As many of you are probably aware, it fluctuates quite a bit year to year, inconsistent at best. We'll discuss an overview of the current program that we have. We'll highlight some program changes and optimizations that we're actually implementing for the first time this season. We'll discuss general responsibilities across the city portfolio because it really is a multi-department effort. There's a lot of different staff and departments that all participate when we activate for a winter weather event. We'll talk about some tech improvements that we're happy to share and highlight. Again, highlighting the communications that we're going to make available that are either already available or that we're getting ready to roll out. And then really just discuss what our objectives and the results that we want to see, not just for our execution of the program, but what our community members can see as well. So winter weather in Charlottesville, again, is inconsistent and irregular. Typically, you can expect 16 to 20 inches of accumulation over the course of a winter season. Of course, we're going to have the extremes on either end of that. Over the past few years, we've trended on the very dry side. We haven't had a major accumulation event probably since 2016 in this area. Would be kind of the last major, what we would consider a major snowstorm, 15 inches or more. The average temperature, we typically 25 degrees and above that we see throughout the season. So we are below that freezing mark where precipitation can occur. We always hope that the warm weather comes quickly so it'll melt away. Last year, that was one of our big obstacles, was just the set-in of a very cold front that lasted quite a while. So it made it very difficult, and the snow stuck around longer than we would all like it to. And just to highlight transitional weather events, so this is very characteristic of our area. Either the storm or the system will either start as rain or exit as rain, or you have this mixed precipitation that just makes it a mess for everyone. So not only is it a mess for being in it, but it makes it very difficult to plan and account for. It can hamper pre-treatment efforts, especially if it begins as rain, because it can actually wash away all that treatment. So oftentimes, if it's going to start as rain or it's going to be a very transitional event, we may not be able to conduct pre-treatment at all. So that can actually put us back a little bit as far as having a forefront on the storm itself and our response. So current program overview, this is just kind of an abstract way to kind of look at the departments that are involved and kind of how we've approached the work and responsibilities in this area in the past. So you can kind of think each department kind of had their own focused set of priorities and responsibilities, and we all kind of worked in the same circles. So just definitely highlight that it is a multi-department effort. And this is a table that'll kind of explain the breadth and depth of the coverage that we provide for a winter storm operation. For street plowing, we have 165 center line miles, so you can extrapolate that. It's approximately 330 lane miles of coverage. We have 31 miles of street walk segment associated with the Safe Routes to School program. 18 miles of city property frontage for city sidewalks that we clear. Parking lot clearing as well. So there's 20 municipal facility lots, there's 10 school lots, and then there's 16 parks and rec facility lots that we're responsible for clearing. The downtown mall obviously is a focus of our effort, making sure that's clear and accessible for businesses and pedestrians to utilize. Transit stop clearing, making sure the bus can get up to the stop itself, but also that passengers can enter and exit easily and accessibly as well. And then we also have the enforcement of a sidewalk clearing ordinance. So our neighborhood development services helps on that regard. So 24 hours after the declared end of storm, community members do have 24 hours to clear their frontage sidewalk of ice and snow for us to be able to travel. And this provides an overview of kind of a breakdown of the resources that we have available within the snow operations team that we're bringing together. So you have your CAT, Neighborhood Development Services, Parks and Rec, multiple divisions within Public Works, so facilities maintenance, fleet, public service, and then the Department of Utilities is a major partner. And this is a breakdown of kind of a general count of the number of pieces of equipment that can be used in a snow operation, as well as the number of personnel. As you can see, we do have quite a bit, but they all have different roles and responsibilities, so we do find ourselves stretched at times depending on the nature of an event.
Jonathan, I know VDOT during major storms, they bring in a lot of contract, to help them. Do we have to do that, or we have the personnel?
So historically, it has been hard for us to procure contracted resources, just for the very reason you said. VDOT tends to get those up quite quickly. Many of you probably have seen the message boards advertising for VDOT asking for plow operators. We have used contractors in this past, especially if we have to activate for snow hauling. So if we have to activate our snow emergency routes that we declare, that's typical of an event where we're likely we would want to reach out to additional resources to help support that, so we can continue the cleaning and clearing efforts. We do have a couple of contractors that we've reached out to and had a relationship with, so we do like to keep those kind of on the bench. It's always kind of a variable thing, is if they're available, if they're doing work for someone else. So we like to plan and optimize our response around handling it as much in-house as we can.
Great,
You have more control over that and less questions.
great, thank you.
So here's a kind of a off-season prep and planning checklist that we approach. So technically, our formal snow season runs November to April. So we have seen snowstorms as early as late November, early December. Doesn't happen often, but it can certainly happen. And the same for kind of late spring, especially ice storms. We've had that in the past. This time of year, we're actually having one this week. It's kind of our highlighted training program and annual snow dry run, where we actually run and schedule the routes for all of our operators to run and get hands-on experience operating the equipment, being out on the routes, seeing what's out there in the daylight under good conditions. So hopefully they can memorize that and bring it out during an event response. So we'll actually hold 2 dry run events this year, one this week and one later in November, just as kind of an enhanced training effort that we want to get for our staff, especially for any new ones that we have that maybe have never even worked a snowstorm before. The next bullet is just kind of a brief kind of checklist that we do as we're planning for an event. So we're obviously checking out the forecast, usually on a hourly basis, depending on where we're at in that process. So we want to know what type of event it is. Is it going to be snow only? Is it going to be one of those transitional events where we have to worry about rain coming in or ice? What are the temperatures? What's the expected accumulation? And then we actually have a classification of event system, and that just helps us kind of orient all of our stakeholders of what kind of impacts we can expect. So it's a level 5 through 1, with 1 being the most acute risk for significant impacts. We'll go through and work with our partners to make sure all the equipment is available, verifying what's up, what's not, and what maintenance do we have to do to make sure those are available as needed. We'll always do a materials inventory check, so making sure where our stock levels are for our supply of salt. We have to do an order ahead of a storm if we're worried about not having enough to get through. That's something we're constantly working with our contracted supplier with, making sure that our salt barn stays as full as it can. It's a competition of resources often because we're all buying from the same people. And if you get yourself in the middle of a storm, it can be very hard to procure, actually.
Where do we procure our salt from?
So we actually have one sole source partner right now, and they are based out of, I believe it's New Jersey, and the name is escaping me at the moment. Forgive me, but I'll follow up certainly and share that provider with you.
No, I don't really need to know. I just wasn't sure. Is salt, if it's a light year, is salt something that, I know that it can last, but it can get hard, and, if it's...
So typically, the storage capacity that we have, we're moving through our allotment. So it's not often that there's an opportunity for our salt to get stale. As long as you're storing it properly, it has a good shelf life, which we always make sure that it's undercover, contained, free from moisture. So last couple things here. We always, the next step, based on all of the items that we've addressed previously in that, we'll develop a treatment plan and kind of schedule out our crews based on what our expected impact is, what the availability of our resources is, and we'll get that information shared out to everyone. So kind of approaching kind of a program change that we're approaching this year and actually implementing for the first time. This is kind of an abstract way to look at it. So we've kind of centralized and consolidated all of those individual departments into what we've called the snow operations team. And I want to stress that it's really not a structural change so much as it just is a highlight and reinforcement of the collaborative nature that we want to approach every storm event with, because we all have, you know, a number of resources and staff that all contribute to this. And this is a kind of a good way to look at it organizationally and how we want to not only work amongst ourselves, but actually approach a storm. So you can see the work kind of orbits around the team itself, and we can kind of pick the resources as needed to respond to those, you know, priority needs. And it just makes it a little bit more flexible for us to respond appropriately at the right time. And this is kind of an itemization of those changes. So as I alluded to, kind of creation of a central city operations plan. So we actually consolidated a lot of information that kind of lived in separate areas to have one living document that can always be updated, and there's kind of one source of information. So that helps us all be on the same playbook. We've actually increased the amount of staff and resources that we have activated to day and night 12-hour shifts. So we're actually going to have more resources available for a longer period of time starting this season. We've augmented several of our street plowing routes with tandem coverage, and really what that means is we're going to have 2 trucks running together, so we can actually clear routes faster in the hopes of being able to activate on our secondary routes sooner. And we've always been able to respond very quickly to our primaries, but one area of improvement that we want to see going forward is getting into our residential neighborhood streets quicker. Obviously with the goal of trying to make sure schools and access can resume as quickly as it can. We're also going to increase the transit stop service frequency. So we've actually instructed all of our plow drivers as part of the completion of their routes, if there's a transit stop on that route, to go ahead and do a swing in. And they'll make sure they go in, clear the service area where passengers would enter, the bus would enter, in the hopes of clearing that as they're working through the storm instead of being reactive to that. As I talked about a little bit earlier, we did a unified preseason training plan, so those snow dry runs. We also brought in an instructor this year that focuses on safety of plow operations, and we included all those stakeholders that you saw earlier, like our utility staff, Parks and Rec, facilities maintenance, just so the team can all be together, hear the same information, and really kind of build that united front approach that we want to make sure everyone's doing the same thing at the same time. And kind of what that approach allows us to do, it's an increased flexibility, position resources where we think they're going to best provide a positive impact to the community. And really to sum that kind of up, and what I kind of feel our mantra is going to be, is we want to be responsive to our weather and operational conditions and needs, and we want to be when we're needed, where we're needed, and making sure we're kind of threading the needle and hitting that at the right point. And kind of unsiloing those responsibility areas, it allows us to kind of move resources around to be where we need to be when we need to be there. So this is a slide just for your information that kind of breaks down what the core responsibilities of each work group is. As we mentioned, it is a multi-department effort, and you can see here kind of the breakdown of that. The Public Service Division primarily leads with the snow plow and treatment of, you know, our roadways, the street network. The Facilities Maintenance Division supports snow clearing for city and school properties, so they help with parking lots, and they also help with sidewalks. And this year they're also going to help activate doing that tandem plow coverage that I mentioned on some of those additional routes, so having another truck that they're going to contribute this year. The Fleet Division makes sure our equipment is always up and available pre-season, and they keep it up during the storm event itself, and then post-event, making sure that it's ready for whatever the next event that's coming down the road. The Department of Utilities has been a long-time partner with us. They provide equipment and staff to augment our street plowing capacity, and they also do parking lot clearing as well. Parks and Rec, they clear city park and recreation facilities, the downtown mall, and associated parking areas with that, and they also contribute and supplement our response to sidewalk clearing efforts. Neighborhood Development Services, they support the community ordinance enforcement, so that 24-hour clearing. So they actually send staff out to monitor clearing activities, kind of give citations and communication for when that countdown would occur and when they might need to bring a contractor in to clear those areas if the compliance isn't there. CAT, Charlottesville Area Transit, so they help identify transit priorities to us. So when they're running their routes, we stay in constant communication with them in our operations center, hearing what the conditions are and what their drivers are experiencing to make sure that we can support them in continuing their operation and route completion as much as possible. And then kind of ancillary to the kind of on the street, we also have the city manager's office and communications. So they lead and help coordinate internal information as well as outward-facing communication. And importantly, they also declare the formal end of the snow events for when that countdown would apply for sidewalk clearing. Police and fire obviously provide mutual coordination with us for any emergency assistance. If there's an accident or we have trees down, they help respond to those as quickly as they can, and we obviously appreciate that and work with them. So tech improvements, so we're increasing the use of GIS-based resources that we have, and I'll be able to highlight a couple of those actually to kind of show you what that means. But we leverage an AVL system, which is something that's a GPS that's mounted on our equipment, and that actually allows us to track where our equipment is being used, and it provides operational awareness not just for us, but even for the community, as I'll show in a little bit. And we've gotten a lot of great feedback about this, not just from the community, but our operators. They can actually come in from a shift or a break and see the progress that they were able to make out on their route. They can see areas, oh, I missed that. I need to make sure I hit that when I go out the next time. So having this kind of GIS-based resource and kind of visibility is a great benefit to us. And this is a snapshot of that. This is actually a community-facing portal that we've launched. And it actually shows you progress in periods of time, and it'll say like this plow serviced this area in 2 to 4 hours ago, 4 to 6 hours ago. So this is where we can highlight kind of those missed areas and making sure we're staying on track with our priorities and access areas. But also it's a great tool for the public to be aware of and being able to track what the city's doing as well.
It's essentially like Strava for plows.
Yes, that's a good analogy for it, yeah.
Like what?
Strava, it's an app for running and walking and biking.
And this is something that we've been able to roll out recently with the support of the AVL system that I mentioned. This is actually a snapshot. So we operate a Public Works Operations Center, kind of think of like an EOC, where we actually man that 24 hours a day if needed. And it's kind of the command center where we respond and kind of coordinate events. So we'll actually track all of these indicators, represent a call that could come in or something that we see that we need to work on. So this is a great visibility tool for kind of management and leadership to know where we're at and keeping track of the progress that we're making and where we're seeing the characteristics of the storm play out in the types of complaints or calls that we're receiving. So communications, there's actually 2 designated snow web pages on the city website. One is kind of more operated toward the plowing operations and kind of detailed info on how we approach what we do and why we do it. The next one is kind of more community focused as far as resources that are available and status updates on services that may be delayed or canceled because of a storm. There's a lot of resources that are available. So our city emergency alert system, I would definitely stress for not only employees to sign up for, but the community members at large, just to make sure they're getting those timely updates on the progress of the storm and updates to city services. And I talked about the emergency operations center we offer, so that is operated, and we do receive calls 24/7 if needed, depending on the nature of the event. And we do that in conjunction with the utilities dispatch office as well. So there's always going to be someone available to field calls for the community to call in and making sure that we're receiving that information timely. And new this year, we're actually rolling out a community-oriented flyer, we're calling it, just to highlight kind of some of this information and how we approach winter weather operations, and also what tools they have available to help highlight issues that they're having. And I actually have a quick sample I can share if you all want to take a look at our copy. Share that. And that's just a brief look at it. It's got some good information, kind of what our primary and secondary route structure is, but importantly, kind of responsibilities as far as sidewalk clearing and information of where they can reach out to get information. That plow portal that we mentioned, where is that located? Where can I call, or can I use the MyCville app to request service or something along those lines? And it's got quick QR links, so we're excited to make that available on the website as well as hard copy around different city departments as well. So to really get toward the objectives and results that we want to see, not just with our program, but the changes and the resources that we're offering, we want to streamline our resource and operations planning. So as I mentioned, just kind of making sure that we have the resources available and where and when we need them, and ultimately just to provide a greater level of service for our community. We want to remove the snow and ice from the travelways as quickly and safely as possible, and make sure everyone can get around in a safe manner, and making sure we make community services accessible, schools or otherwise. That's it for that. Happy to take questions.
Thank you. Lloyd?
No questions?
Okay. Brian?
Looking forward to a boring winter, by the way.
Yeah.
Likewise.
No questions, just I think a really good job and a really good plan. It's clear that you all have put a lot of time and thought into this, and so I'm grateful, and I know the community will be grateful, assuming we have significant snow this winter. But yeah, it's clear the level of care and attention that's gone into this by Sam and Public Works and the whole group, so thank you.
And I'm glad you said that. I'd be remiss to say that, with all the tech and the resources that we're providing, the human element of this is obviously very important. The staff that make these operations possible, being an operator, being out on the sidewalk for 12 hours at a time, multiple, it's a mentally and physically taxing activity that they're doing, and a service to the community, and they do a great job, and I'm happy to have the partners that I'm fortunate to work with to make that happen.
Yeah.
Michael?
Yeah, no, appreciate the update. Obviously, this is one of those things I think a lot of people in the community take for granted, but is very operationally complex, and people only notice when it doesn't go well, so I appreciate the planning and effort that's gone into this. Obviously, you covered kind of the city's role for kind of mission, critical things that have to get cleared. For the homeowners who 24 hours after the snow event ends have to clear their sidewalk, for those who for whatever reason aren't physically able to clear it, is that still something where the onus is really on kind of community supports to help those individuals out, I assume?
Yeah, I know this has been an area of conversation. I think there's been a history of community organization around providing effort and support for that. I'm not quite sure what the status of some of those are, but I know that'll be a topic of conversation going forward, because we certainly recognize that not everyone is able. We do encourage neighbors to help neighbors as able, and hopefully this information kind of spreads the word a little bit about that, where everyone can understand what the current roles and responsibilities are, and if they're aware of someone that needs assistance, perhaps having that knowledge ahead of time, they can plan around providing assistance in that way.
Thank you.
No.
Yeah, thanks. I had a similar question, which was, can you talk a little bit more about the 24-hour citation, the cost, how people should be aware of that? What kind of information do we show people in advance so that they're aware that even exists? That is something they could
So
potentially get?
this is obviously the flyer that you've received. We're trying to find a lot of different ways to promote awareness around that, and to know that the property owner is responsible for it. So it is an operation that is headed up by our Neighborhood Development Services. They actually have a team that goes out and promotes inspections for that type of area. And basically after the declared end of snowfall, they will be issued kind of a warning, basically saying, hey, the time period is up, we've noticed that the frontage in front of your property isn't clear yet, they then have another 24 hours to remediate the conditions that were observed. And at that point, the city does have the ability to leverage a contractor that could later be billed to the property owner.
So there's not a fine, there would just be a cost for
Correct.
making it go away?
So Natalie, I'm sorry, a quick follow-up. Is that review from community development, neighborhood services based on the complaint or just visual?
So they actually do perform routes where they're looking for compliance. As with a lot of snow issues, it can be complaint-driven. There could be a particular area that's causing particular travel issues, so it could be in response to a complaint, to answer your question, but it could also just be part of a route that they're checking compliance for as part of their response.
Okay, and then that kind of brings me to my second question, which is the city is responsible for about 49 miles of sidewalk clearing with the safe routes to schools and the 18 miles of frontage on city property. So what would it look like for the city to prioritize sidewalks in general?
And when you mean expanding the responsibility area as far as what the city would clear for sidewalks?
Exactly.
So
Instead of just car path lanes, what about
Right.
pedestrian areas as well?
as a lot of things, it would become a resource conversation. And it'd be something that I would definitely want to coordinate with my director and James with to make sure that we evaluate what that need would be as far as a resource and staffing perspective. I would stress that we are capable and able to respond to most events in an optimal way. But to expand the current portfolio of responsibilities with the current resources that we have, I would have concerns about our ability to deliver the way I would want to deliver at that point. So I would want to have those discussions, and it could involve an ask where I'm back here asking for those additional resources to make something like that happen. But at the current time, it would be something I would want to kind of look further into and discuss what that would look like.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful. And then on that same vein, as the city now has, not an extensive network of protected bike lanes, we have the Belmont Bridge, then one closer to JPA. What does snow clearing look like in protected bike lanes where there's a barrier in between the car roadway and the bike roadway?
Yeah, so depending on the characteristics of the storm, and we were actually able to try this out with the Belmont Bridge this past season, which was great. There's a couple different ways you can do it. We do have equipment that's kind of oriented to respond in a good way with that. If the snow lends itself, we actually have kind of power brooms that can actually do a very effective job quickly. of
So like
clearing
a
those
street
areas.
sweeper kind of
Yep.
vehicle?
Now, if it's a wetter, heavier snow, where that's not optimal, we do have some trucks and skid steer equipment that we actually have outfitted appropriately to be able to plow the snow out of those areas to make sure that they're clear. So we were actually able to do that fairly successfully last year with the Belmont Bridge. And so we do have options and resources available to do that.
Okay, great. I just want to make sure that that's something that's considered in the plan as well, especially as we're trying to expand those.
Yeah, and that's actually part of, we actually have a rotational route for the Belmont Bridge specifically as part of that. So it's certainly in our area of prioritization.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
No questions here. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Again, hopefully we won't have to put any of this into operation, but it's good to know that we're prepared.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. So we are going into closed session now?
Yeah, I have a motion for a city council closed session pursuant to section 2.2-3712 of the Virginia Code. I move that the city council close this open meeting and convene in a closed session is authorized by the Virginia Freedom of Information Act as follows. Pursuant to Virginia Code section 2.2-3711A1 for discussion and consideration of prospective candidates to be appointed to the following boards and/or committees. Number one, the Police Citizen Oversight Board.
Okay, can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. All opposed, please say no. Thank you. We'll reconvene here at 6:30. Thank you.